A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, and some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse out the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. And on today's panel, we have Vivian Ho, health economist at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy and Baylor College of Medicine, Mary Flood, legal consultant with Androvit Legal Media and Marketing, and Marco Roberts, chairman of the Texas Conservative Liberty Forum. Vivian, Mary, Marco, welcome to Houston Matters.
Happy to be here.
Thanks.
Panel, the USDA announced last week that they will no longer seek to implement a new rule that would require poultry companies to keep levels of Salmonella bacteria under a certain threshold and a test for the presence of 6 strains of Salmonella most associated with illness. The CDC estimates Salmonella causes 1.35 million infections annually, most of them through food, and about 420 deaths. Last year, Dr. Emilio Esteban, USDA Undersecretary for Food Safety under the then Biden administration, had this to say about why they wanted to change the rule. The agency didn't set limits on Salmonella levels until now because there weren't good enough tools and technology to track the bacteria in this way, but now it's time to change our approach. Industry trade group, the National Chicken Council, praised the Trump administration's move to cancel the rule, saying in a statement that the Biden-era proposal would have increased costs for consumers while having, quote, no meaningful impact on public health. So, withdrawing a proposal that sought to reduce Salmonella in poultry, is this good, bad, or ugly? Mary Flood.
Ugly. This is ugly. You know, Trump calls it Make America Healthy Again. I mean, it's more like Make Salmonella Great Again. This White House has enacted so many moves to harm the health of Americans and others around the world. It's dizzying. The dangerous results of the layoffs. At the FDA, they're not going to be able to test milk and dairy as much, delaying some changes in checking contamination in food. At the Department of Health and Human Services, they've said they're doing less food testing because of it. And add to that what they've done to the CDC website, taking down information about COVID, about HIV. It doesn't surprise me that the National Chicken Council, and I don't know, that name sounds like they're all cowards.
Bunch of chickens.
You know, it's like, but anyway, it doesn't surprise me that they would say, hey, we'd rather not be regulated. Now, most industries would rather not have consumers or the government regulate them. But, you know, the only thing I can imagine is the White House somehow thinks there's a certain number of people who can die and it's okay if you can claim you cut bureaucrats. I find the whole thing really shameful.
Is this good, bad, or ugly? Marco Roberts.
There's a lot of information not present in the reports that I saw. They made no mentions of what this effect would have. It didn't mention anything about the cost, nothing at all. And of course, and these issues are always kind of like pay their fair share. It's a very vague. It always sounds like, well, you know, no matter what the tax rate is or what the distribution of benefits are, you can always argue, well, they're not doing their fair share because it's not objective. There's no measurement here. You don't even know what you're talking about. And so it's an easy thing to say, well, can't we just make it safer? Well, sure, but there's many other things you can work on that affect a lot more people. For example, 40,000 people die in car accidents this year. Just a century ago, you would have been more likely to die of a lightning strike than of Salmonella poisoning today. So that's just to kind of give you a perspective of how unlikely this is going to affect you. And the fact is already, regulations already add about 20 to 25% to the cost of food. And there may be other legitimate issues that Mary has raised. Some of them, I think, are legitimate issues, but not all of them are. And I would also like to point out something else. If you really want to look at the bang for the buck, right? The biggest killer is, of course, heart disease. Kills close to 800,000 Americans every single year. And you know what increases your chance of heart disease and heart attack? Getting mad. That increases the rate of heart attacks and heart disease and really just being affected by this.
Well, then you're not helping me at all right now.
Well, but here's my point. The thing is, I would suggest to all the listeners is don't be upset by this story. It's not worth the anger. It's not worth the cost. And that's a free bit of advice that will make you healthier in the long run. You know, we are always looking at these stories. Everybody's primed on both sides to get mad about every single thing. And I'm going, there are legitimate things to get mad about the Trump administration. This is not one of them. It's not worth it. Just have a nice day.
And hope you don't get salmonella. Have a nice day.
Chances are tiny.
Vivian Ho.
It's Friday, Marco. So yeah, I agree with you. Let's have a good day. So I think I fall between Marco and Mary on this. I'm glad I have not died from food poisoning, but I've had it more than once, and it really is unpleasant. So there's a cost to, we say the cost of the mortality, and then there's a cost to the morbidity. I do appreciate that Dr. Esteban said that the science has advanced, so we can set a minimum criteria over which, we worry about lots of people getting sick. So it would be nice if policy changed in response to advances in science. However, maybe we could think more creatively in terms of what we do in terms of a regulatory response, so it's not as expensive. And, I got a little bit of a chance to look into, so what happens if you're a farmer and you have a salmonella outbreak that they can trace back to you now? It turns out there doesn't seem to be a fine. Like, they have a bunch of inspections and they make you clean your stuff up. But, to me, why don't we just change this to, if there's a salmonella outbreak and they trace it back to your farm, you're required to pay double or triple the damages of everything, all the sicknesses that you caused and all the costs that it took to figure out that it was you. And in that sense, you put the right incentives on the producers, because if you don't have a regulation, there's no incentive for anyone to worry about what you're doing. You can sort of make the food supply safer, but not as costly. I mean, we need to get smarter about regulation, not just throw it all out the window.
I can get behind that.
That's pretty interesting. I don't know any of the facts and how much, and whether it would put farmers out of business or what the government really does, but it's an interesting idea.
Well, self-policing, there's an advantage to self-policing mechanisms, right? Because, again, it's kind of like, each farmer may determine more accurately what's going to work better, knowing, however, the incentive at the cost of making the wrong decision, rather than having the federal government. So I'm not sure if it always works, but this sounds like a very interesting idea that I think people should look at.
All right, we solved the crisis.
Yeah. Thanks, Vivian.
Thank you.
Second topic.
All right, here we go. Panel. The developers of Raw, a new dating app that aims to cut down on catfishing and ghosting by making its users upload unfiltered real-time selfies, is exploring a new product, the Raw Ring. The ring will allow couples to track each other's emotions in real time using artificial intelligence. Each ring, which is designed to be bought as a pair, has a microphone and biosensors to capture heart rate, skin temperature, and movement to determine how the wearer is emotionally feeling throughout the day. The team claims that the ring will be able to identify other emotional states such as anxiety or sexual arousal, including if you're there or you're not there when your partner's mood light happens to go off. Raw CEO Marina Anderson says that the idea behind the ring was to give couples more ways to explore each other's feelings on a deeper level and build more trust. Almost 50% of marriages now end in divorce, she said. We would like the ring to be a symbol of trust once again. So using AI to build emotional trust, is this good, bad, or ugly? Marco?
Oh, I hate this. I think it's ugly. I don't know how many of you are Star Trek fans. Anyone here? No? Oh, yeah, you. Okay,
yeah, sure.
You look like one. So
Like
we're both the same
He's
boat.
right.
No,
He's right.
but you guys may be familiar with the concept of the Borg, and in this future world, these are people that it's a kind of a dark alien society that's kind of like a beehive, and they're all connected technologically to each other through machines, and they're part machines, and it's in their brains and their bodies. And while they have some individual identity, they are all connected to this technological architecture, a hybrid, which really directs everything, like algorithms and computer programs, and overrides them when necessary or when it thinks to do that. They have some individual capacity, but it's limited and subordinate to the hive. And I'm thinking, in this future, in the Star Trek series, we're the humans and they're the Borg. But I think in the future, actually, we're headed to being the Borg. We're the ones that little by little are connecting ourselves to this super architecture. We already have social media deciding which posts our friends see, which ones we interact with. It's a corporation deciding these things for us. We have emails finishing our sentences, trying to tell us how to complete the sentence. You have to kind of keep overriding it. You have now all your biological data now being tracked online little by little, with more advice coming proactively. The other day just typed in the first 3 words to start looking at it at Bing, and it auto-completed the correct search. I don't know how it's doing that. But so I just don't like this.
I did it, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I am the Borg. Sorry.
I can see that. So I don't like it. I don't think it's trust. And honestly, if you need a ring, you've got other problems. I just think that if you need a ring, you've got other things to think about.
How about you, Mary? Since you're
Good Lord, this is ugly and so creepy. The name is really unfortunate. It conjures both unprotected sex and uncooked chicken. It's just, ugh.
Oh my
it's
God.
I mean,
Okay,
it
Mary,
does.
this is
You're welcome. But yeah,
free
it's-
legal advice from
like Marco said, it's not an emblem of trust. It would be an emblem of distrust. You know, I do have a Fitbit, and I like the smartness, and I like learning what's going on. And I suppose my significant other, were he like 30 years younger and tech savvy, could hack in and see, but I don't know what good it would do him. What this reminds me of is the 70s and the 90s, but really big in the 70s. They had a thing called a mood ring. And it supposedly
that.
changed colors if you were interested in someone. And I was a young baby journalist, and I was covering the police beat. And I went into the homicide detective's office, and this one guy comes up, and my mood ring changes colors. And they have him walk away and come back, and it changed colors again. And needless to say, these guys are heartless anyway. It was a mess. But I kept thinking, he was like 30 years older than me. Not particularly attractive, not particularly smart, not particularly charming. So I assumed it was like his aftershave, his cologne, or maybe something emanated from, homicide detectives classically wear cheap suits. Something coming from the suit, I don't know. But I did keep wearing it because what I wanted the homicide detectives to do was talk to me and enjoy me showing up. So it was actually pretty good for me. But I wonder if this ever becomes a reality, and I don't believe it really will. What it would do with someone who's like a psychopath or deeply depressed, if they would show stuff like this. But I think the real winner, if it really comes out, would be a controlling spouse abuser. It would be great for them.
Ooh, that's
no.
dark.
What about you, Vivian? Good, bad, or ugly?
Yeah, I have to agree with Marco and Mary. It is ugly. Although I will say, as an economist, it's a free market, so this company is allowed to develop this product and try and sell it, but pretty clear from the discussion that they're not going to have any customers in this room, and I don't know who is going to be interested. The fact that they were saying that it restores the ring as a symbol of trust, it's a trigger to me. I had a divorce, a first marriage, and I thought the physical things like a ring and a marriage certificate were protection, and clearly they weren't. And so, I'm married. I've been happily married for 21 years, and I don't wear a ring for that purpose. And, as you both said, when you're with a partner, the best thing is to actually look at them and speak with them, and you should be able to learn to read their expressions and know what they're feeling, and that communication is so important. I will say, where this would be super handy, if you've lived with a teenager, they come home, how is your day? Grunt. There's like, fine, yes, no, and a shrug. And so that ring would come in super handy when I was, trying to communicate with a teenager. So maybe there still is a business to retrieve out of all of this.
The other thing I think about is that it doesn't say it on the website, but I suspect it'd be a subscription-based product. So you buy the ring, but you're not done paying.
Yeah, it's going to cost.
And it only works as long as you're buying the subscription. And I just can't imagine what the trust issues will be when the rings just start turning off at random times. And I think it's the opposite of.
Yeah, it's going to foment discord
Yes,
and
exactly.
distrust.
Why is your ring off from 4 to 6?
And the teenager's going to get around it, like, in a minute, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. He's just way more tech savvy than I am.
Yeah, he'll go to school and say, "Hey, here, can you wear this ring for a little while?"
Put it on the dog. Put it on.
You should just listen. You don't need AI to just listen to your partner.
Right, 100%.
It just seems like after 2022, AI is everything, whatever you need. It's a brave new world out there. And thank you for the Borg reference. And yes, I am a science fiction nerd, and I appreciate having my good, bad, and ugly have a reference to Star Trek. So
it's always good to meet a fellow Trekkie.
Resistance is not futile.
Exactly. Thank you. Vivian Ho, Mary Flood, Marco Roberts, thank you so much for being here on Houston Matters and the Good, Bad, and Ugly.
Thank you.
Thank you.